Hi everyone, thank you for joining us on our virtual mail open weekend with this little Q&A with Emily from Tin Can Knits.
Hello.
We just introduce ourselves. I'm Helena and this is Laura.
Hello.
And we are people who work at John Robin, if you didn't already know. And then we're joined today by Emily, designer behind Tin Can Knits. And she's here to talk to us a little bit about designing and her new app.
Yeah, exciting.
Yeah, so we'll chat a bit about those things. And if you have any questions as we go along or at the end, if you just want to pop those in the chat. Okay,
Cool.
over to you, Emily.
Well, hello, everybody. I just want to say, speaking of background noise, when I looked at my calendar, I realized that I had this talk happening when I was on a family weekend away to a lodge far out in the woods. So I'm in a public space because there was no Wi-Fi down at the cabins. So if you hear some background noise, it may be because somebody's come into the room. But hopefully the internet will allow me to show you all the things I wanted to talk to you about today. So my name's Emily, and I am one half of Tin Can Knits. My business partner, Alexa Ludman, is the other half. And I've been designing for, I used to always say 10 years, but I think it's like inching towards the 15-year mark. Designing knitting patterns primarily, and we make tutorials as well. And in the last couple of years, we've been working on making an app format for knitting patterns. And I'll tell you a lot more about that. But I'm just going to show you a little bit about our history by sharing my screen here and showing a couple pictures. So this is kind of where we started. You can see Alexa's in yellow and I'm in red. But we really got started before I had kids. But Alexa was pregnant with her first baby. And so our very first book was called 9 Months of Knitting. And since then, Alexa has had 3 and I've had 2 kids. And our design work has really often been driven by like, what adorable thing do we want to knit for our babies? Obviously, we're also knitting adorable things for ourselves and designing them and making them available to you. But from the beginning, Alexa had the brilliant idea, why don't we size our patterns so that I can knit them for my babies? And it was funny because I didn't have any kids yet, and I wasn't interested in children at all. And I wasn't really interested in knitting for children. I thought like, oh, well, they're just going to vomit on that and they're just going to ruin it immediately. Why would you bother? I would just knit a nice thing for myself. But I said, okay, you're my business partner. Like, this sounds like there's definitely going to be people interested in knitting the same design for little ones and for themselves or their partners. And so we got started there with our second book. We sized everything from baby to big. And of course, after I had my own kids, I realized what the point of all this was, because I immediately wanted to knit things less for Max, my firstborn, but when Neve was when I was pregnant with Neve, towards the end, I just would spend a whole day knitting a baby sweater, and then I would spend the next day knitting another baby sweater, just because there was so much joy in making tiny things.
Yes.
So I got on board pretty fast with the concept. And this is the photo that we took last summer of the whole Tin Can Knits family all grown up. Mm-hmm. And so this is kind of like what our business is about, is having fun, working together. Alexa and I are just the best of friends, and we love making things together and having fun doing it for our families. So So that's kind of us and where we're coming from. And the thing about sizing your patterns from baby all the way through to big is that there's a lot of numbers on the page. If anybody has knit from a Tin Can Knits pattern or just taken a look at one, you'll find there's just these huge strings of numbers, because sometimes we also add in like men's specific sizing rather than just gender neutral sizing, so that we have the child's range, usually 8, and then the women's size range, and then the men's size range as well, with a few adjustments. And so there's even more sizes on the page to pick from.
It's hard to keep track when there's that many.
Yeah, it's a lot to keep track of. And we just keep on wanting to add more and more value into our patterns. And this is, first, we added the full size range. And then second, we started adding more than one yarn weight or gauge to our patterns. So essentially, you want to create a product that's really useful to the knitter. And I know personally, as a knitter, I like to go to my stash and find what I have and then make the thing I want to make.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're like, well, but I have DK, a sweater amount of DK. I don't want to knit it in worsted, but I do want to knit this pattern. So we wanted to be able to make the same design available in multiple yarn weights. And it's a bit more work from the designer's perspective. We have to do more math and figure out how it's going to fit and how it's going to drape. But from the customer's perspective, it can just be a more valuable pattern and more useful for more people. So once you add in all the sizes and then you multiply it by 3 yarn weights, the pattern starts to get more complicated, like longer on the page and a little harder to follow. Like you really need to work that highlighter hard.
Sure.
And so this was the point where my husband, who's a developer, John, and I were talking about the problem. And this is exactly the sort of problem that computers can solve very easily. So we decided to start experimenting with a project where the pattern is presented kind of in an app or website format, and you only see the numbers you need. So that's one of the key benefits to having the app. Most people, I feel like, have their phones wherever they're going. And a lot of the time, it's nice to be able to keep all of your data on your phone and accessible from wherever you're at. So you don't need to carry around paper patterns. Yeah. And to be able to always go back to your knit, like all of your knits. So that was kind of the reason we got started with the app. And there's also another reason, and that is accessibility. So with PDFs, there's quite a few things you can do in the way that you author your PDF patterns that can make them better from an accessibility standpoint for people using screen readers, like blind knitters or people who are just partially sighted. And so in order to do the job as a designer, it's important to keep up to date with the changing standards for accessibility. And there's a lot of learning there. And there's also a lot of back catalog. So if we've got about 200 designs out there, if you have to go back and rework all 200 of your designs, I think you can imagine to upgrade them so that they're all screen reader accessible, and then re-author them and send them out to everyone who's bought them over the past 10 years. There's just a lot there that becomes kind of over the top hard for small creative businesses like Alexa and I. So with an app, we can solve those problems better. And we've actually been working with a blind knitter who's been screen reader testing our app.
Wow.
And she's just so excited that the transformation, even just taking the pattern and making it a single size pattern, makes it so much easier for her to use it. And then the fact that it's on the phone and she can swipe through and listen to it using voiceover and access all the information in a way that's quite difficult to do on a PDF, even one that's well marked up. So this just seemed like super obvious. And we also thought we're the ones to do it because we're all about clarity. I love to design. I love to knit. I'm very excited by new fibers. But one of my passions is creating documents that are really clear, that really give the knitter exactly what they need when they need it. Not too much information and not too little. And so I think I was excited by the possibility for an app format to do that for patterns because it's responsive to what you need. I was just checking the chat and I did have, there was a question about the jumper I'm wearing.
Yeah.
And it's actually hand spun that I made from all kinds of colors of the Yarnadelic tops. I ordered 100 grams of all the different colors a few years back. And then I spun one ply of each of the colors. And then I plied like A plus B, A plus C, A plus D, and made these crazy self-striping balls. And that was one of the times when I was testing the simple sweater pattern, which is one of these multi-gauge patterns that includes sock, DK, and worsted Aran weight versions of the same design. So anyways, this is Yarnadelic. I actually made not one hand spun sweater, but 3 in the same design with these kind of crazy ball hand spun yokes because it was so fun to make them and it was so fun to knit them. So I really enjoyed. I never knit things more than once, hardly ever. But this project was one that I knit 3 times. And that's just in my size. I knitted a bunch of times for my kids too. So I don't want to talk for too long. So what I wanted to do was just show you the app. And I'm hoping that the internet here will be good enough that the preview comes through fast enough. And then we can talk about any questions you all have.
Yeah, there's a few people who already got the app and they're loving it, really enjoying it, using it. And it's so helpful, obviously, already.
So I'm just going to show you first. This is what the simple sweater pattern looks like. This is Gary and Jones, Alexa's kid and husband, in their simple sweaters. So when we create this sort of multi-gauge, multi-size pattern in PDF, we do a few things to try to make it really clear. One of them is there's a single sort of pattern flow, but you pick your numbers out of an array. So you can either use the worsted Aran numbers, the DK numbers, or the sock sport numbers. And so whenever you get to a point that's color coded, you just go to color for your yarn weight and then find your size. But nonetheless, it gets to be a lot on the page. So here you can see if I was going to make a worsted weight sweater for my daughter, I would cast on 72 stitches. So I could highlight that. But I'm going to pop over and show you. So then you see the whole rest of the pattern has these highlights for what to do differently based on yarn weight and size.
Yeah.
But especially when it comes to evenly spaced decrease rounds, things get really wordy really fast because we're aiming for this to make things simple, like we tell you what to do, but at the same time, offering all the value of the yarn weights and the sizes. So I'm just going to stop sharing that one, and I'll show you what it looks like, hopefully, if the internet agrees with me, within the app. Are you seeing the app screen coming up?
Yeah.
Perfect. So here is the Tin Can Knits app. And it has a few different tabs. The home page has the projects you've been knitting on, a button to take you to cast on, and some other information. My knits here is where all of the projects you're working on come up. And if you tap on them, you can get right into the pattern and keep on knitting. The patterns tab is a list of the patterns that you can cast on in the app. And if you go to the App Store and look for Tin Can Knits or the Google Play Store, this app is a free download. So download it, try it out. It includes 10 free patterns. And all these patterns are sized baby to big, and many of them have multiple yarn weights. So perfect for your hand spun, because you can knit. There'll be a yarn weight that works.
Yeah.
I'm really a beginner spinner, or like an experienced beginner. Like I'm always still beginner, but I've done quite a bit over the years. And so I never know what yarn weight my yarns are going to come out. So if we were going to cast on the simple sweater in the app, we would go to the simple sweater pattern. It's down here. And you can see this. These are the cute pictures of my daughter Neve in her rainbow yoke version.
Yeah.
But you can then pick which yarn weight. So say you're going to do a worsted or Aran weight yarn, the Yarnadelic in the new custom colorway would be great.
Oh, yeah.
Then you pick which size you want. So I would be knitting for Neve, who's 8. I probably knit this size. But you can see the adult size range goes all the way up to 60. To 6X, sorry. So here we are. This would be a sweater for Neve. And you only see the size information that applies to you. And then you can pick your options. And this pattern has a body length option. So I'd probably knit her a cropped body. We can select that.
Yeah.
So then everything is summarized for you, everything you need. And then when you hit begin project, we might have to wait a little while because of the really spotty internet.
It's it feels revolutionary, but also like, why hasn't this existed already? And like,
Yeah.
Watching you go through those steps, it's just so intuitive, and it's a bit like, why doesn't this exist? And people are going to be crying out for like every pattern to be in this app.
Yeah, definitely. I'll speak to that. I'll speak to that for sure.
I know as well for European people, you can choose whether you've got metric or imperial measurements as well, can't you? Or a mixture if you want both. Like us strange English people, you need to know both, because we can only do height in one and length in the other or whatever. So yeah, I found that really helpful.
Yeah, cool.
So you can say you're going to make it in bright green. Then you can pick your project icon. You can add a yarn. You can add in some extra information. I'm not going to bother with that right now. But so all of the data, the metadata about the project is available still, but it's kind of hidden because you don't need it when you're knitting.
Yeah.
So you can find all that in the menu from the top right button here. And then there's pattern photos, there's about the yarn, about the needles, you can record your needles. All that stuff is still there. It's kind of hidden away though, because the most important thing is this big yellow button at the bottom of the screen. And when you tap it, it takes you through the pattern one piece at a time. So it's just like a regular pattern. This is not something new that you need to learn about. All it is it's filtering down to what you need when you need it. So, like Laura said, we were very surprised that this didn't exist at this time. Like, we launched publicly a year ago, and we'd been working on it for a couple of years prior to that, kind of in evenings and weekends. But it's so obvious that this would be a convenient way to view patterns, but nobody had jumped on it yet. And maybe because it's knitting. And so all the tech bros don't think that there's a lot of like amazing, like powerful women out there who want to spend money on knitting. They should know that, but they don't know it.
No.
So here we are. You can see that the pattern only shows you just the numbers that you need.
Yeah.
And there's options like this neckline, which you could either cast on and then work the neckline later, or cast on and work the ribbing first and then work through. So you can pick which of the options you want, and then the pattern will only show you that option. So I would always cast on with the ribbing for a kid's sweater. And then you proceed through and the pattern will scroll along. And there's a few more cool things. Like here, if you tap the plus button on any of the instructions, you get support on just that instruction. So any abbreviations included in that instruction are here. You can tap through and see what a knit stitch or a make one stitch is on our website. So all of the support materials are accessible at a tap from within the app, which is amazing for newer knitters especially. So when you are teaching your friend to knit, pick a free pattern from the Tin Can Knits app, and they'll have all that info accessible to them.
Yeah. It's really useful.
And as Helena was saying, you can change your settings. So this button here, view settings, you can change the text size. So if you need bigger text and you're using it on your iPad, you can make that text really big and it'll be really easy to see. You can use light mode or dark mode. And the units, I like to mix my units. So I like to use inches for like body dimension. I like to use yards for yarn, but I like to use millimeters for my needle sizes, and I like to use inches for my needle lengths. So when we did beta testing, lots of people wanted different units for different contexts. So you can pick that. People had been emailing us for years and complaining that there was no centimeters on the pattern. But you saw the Simple Sweater PDF. Like if you can imagine a whole array of lengths in inches, and then right after it, a whole array of dimensions in centimeters, we just couldn't go there. So this is how we solved the problem a different way.
Yeah. It's really helpful. I thought that was a good thing to have on there, because yeah, like you said, when you want to mix and match, like it would be fine if you're like, oh, just imperial, but then I'm like, but I don't know what needle size that is, because my needles are like yarn and needles for me are always both in millimeters. But like you said, your body size things for some of them were like, I know what like diameter hat I want, so but I only know it in inches. So yeah, it's very difficult to choose. We had a couple of other questions as well, but someone was saying, how do you know where you keep track? Does it just remember?
So I just cast on the Simple Sweater. If you look at the screen preview, this bright green Simple Sweater I just started, and when I tap to open it again, it scrolls me back to where I was at. So it's got a keeping track system built in, so you always know what the next step is. I feel like there's a number of little problems that the app is aiming to solve, but altogether the point is so that you don't need to worry about the pattern. You don't need to focus on the pattern. All you need to do is enjoy your knitting. because we've simplified the pattern and we've made it really clear what the next step is in each case. And if you need help on this instruction, like it's there. You can learn about how to make one and what's the difference between make one right and left.
Yeah, I always need to check time.
So, and also because it's on a screen, we don't have to try to squeeze it all into an 8.5 by 11 at like six pages or something. So we can actually include more information, like how many yoke stitches like that you're at the end. It's easier to include more of the helpful information, which would make knitting the piece like more fun, simpler, and harder to fail at. Oh no, I think I might need to turn around and plug my computer in.
Another question saying, are you able to print the pattern out from the app once you've customized it, or is it designed?
We've got that on our list of features to add soon, because many people would love to have their single size pattern, but they don't want to be on their phone screen, or maybe they just really like having a paper pattern.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen, but we haven't got that feature yet.
And another question was, can you access it offline? And I think that because it's just an app that you've downloaded, you don't need to be on the internet to be able to do it once you've downloaded it and got the pattern on there. Is that right?
That's not true yet. It's an app that you download, but it syncs to all your devices. So all of your data is stored in the cloud. We will be adding an offline mode so that your data can all be stored locally. And then once you connect again, it'll sync to the cloud and sync between your tablet and your phone.
Yeah.
But right now that's not operational yet.
Okay.
So currently with the app as it stands, you need to have an internet connection.
Yeah.
Which is part of the problem being here in poor internet. So there are a couple, like some of the problems will be solved by, oh, sorry. Here we are.
Yeah, someone was saying are all the patterns in there, but I think the answer is not yet. Is that correct? You're
not yet. Let me just tell you about what we're thinking. So I think I can actually stop screen sharing. The only other thing I wanted to show with the screen share is we do have a shop here. The account that I'm looking at has a lot of patterns already, so there aren't very many for purchase, just the Vivid blanket. But you can buy patterns in the app, and if you were an app fundraiser, you can buy them with credits. I'm just going to do it with a credit. And once you bought it, you'll see it pop in to your patterns list and you can get started. The big question, once people try the app, the big question is like, when are all the patterns going to be in there? And also, people want to use it for all their patterns, not just Tin Can Knits patterns, right? Because nobody reads only one author. Nobody reads only one author, and nobody knits just one designer's patterns. Even if you're a big fan and you like our patterns, there's dozens and dozens of other patterns you're going to want to knit. So our goal and what we're aiming at is to create this pattern transformation and allow you to apply it to the PDFs you have bought from other designers. So the end game, we're prototyping on the Tin Can Knits patterns. And so there's a list of about 30 Tin Can Knits patterns that you can use in the app right now. And we're adding more consistently. But the real vision for the app is that you drag and drop your pattern from whatever source, and you get to use it in the one size view tap through format with various supports. So that's where we're aiming at. And functions like the offline mode and the print your own size version are definitely like on this the list of things to make it fully featured enough that it's going to work for people. Were there any other questions?
Yeah, we've got a few.
Okay.
One was, can you import data from Ravelry? I assume not currently.
In the
Right now, we do have a Ravelry link.
Oh.
So but it's kind of limited. What you can do is once you've got an app account, you can go in the menu and tap Ravelry link. And then you link to your Ravelry user, whatever that is. And then our app can see your library. Right. And so it can see any tin can knits patterns that exist in your Ravelry library will show up in the app. And some of them, like say you have Love Note or the Simple Sweater, you'll see that immediately as an app-enabled pattern. And you'll be able to use the single size tap through format. But some of our patterns that haven't been input into the app yet will just be PDFs. So you'll be able to tap and open the PDF from within the app. So you see your Tin Can Knits Ravelry library within the app. We do imagine further integration where you can say share to Ravelry and your project creates a project listing on Ravelry. Yeah. So that you can keep, if you want to keep your Ravelry projects page all up to date, you can easily do that from within the app.
I think we're probably all thinking, oh,
how many
of my things on Ravelry, I want them in this app because it's amazing.
Yeah, so that is the goal, is to make patterns, not just Tin Can Knits patterns, but patterns more generally a little bit better to use on your phone. And even if not on your phone, you can modify them and pick your own size and print them out and put them in your knitting bag. That's kind of like the service we'd like to offer.
And somebody else asked, does it handle colourwork charts?
We've just recently improved the chart function of the app. So you can see if you cast on an Antler Toque, you can see that the charts now tap through. So you get the highlight on chart row 1, and then you can advance chart row 2, chart row 3. So you can keep track of where you are on the chart. And so colourwork charts come up and show you the colors that we've designed. But one of the next features we'll add probably before Christmas will be that you can change your colors in the colourwork chart to match what you're knitting with. So we're a step away from making that happen.
Well, that would be really useful.
Yeah.
I thought there was an interesting question. Fully realized, will this make Ravelry obsolete?
I
don't think so. We're not intending to create the kind of full-fledged database system that Ravelry is, with all the yarns and all the patterns and pattern sales and all of that. We just want to create a tool that's really good for reading the patterns and keeping track of your projects. There's another question, where is the Ravelry link in the app? And let me see if I can show you. So here's the app, and you go in the menu, which is this little button in the top right. And so one of those buttons is the Ravelry link. It's like the third button down in the main menu. And when you tap it, you can link to Ravelry.
Amazing.
And it just pops open a thing that lets you put in your Ravelry stuff. And
a couple of people have asked about Strange Brew specifically. Is that added to the app? Where can they link it through from other places? They've already got it. They're very keen.
So one thing you should know, I probably should have said at the start, is never buy our patterns twice. Just email us and we'll hook you up wherever you need to have your pattern. So that applies to the app. If you buy it on our website, you will have access to it in the app. If you buy it on Ravelry, you will have access to it in the app. Do not buy it again. You don't need to. We're designing our system so it doesn't matter where you bought it, and it doesn't matter when you bought it. You bought it 10 years back, you will have access to it in the app. So sometimes that takes a little bit of hooking up, but just send me an email via the app. There's a little button like get account help in the menu, same place as the Ravelry button, and send me a message there and I'll be able to hook you up with everything. The question of Strange Brew is also always a tricky one. It's tough being talking about a product that's in its growth period. Like, we're trying as fast as we can to add all of these features.
Yeah.
And Strange Brew is one of the reasons we made the app. We made that collection. For people who don't know, Strange Brew was a pattern collection, a book that Alexa and I made back in 2018. And it was all about color work. And the center pattern was a recipe pattern. And it was in 3 yarn weights, and it was in all the sizes, including women's and men's sizing. You could knit it from the bottom up or the top down, and it was for designing your own color work sweater. So it's really fun. You just cast on, and then you can just pick color work motifs to chuck into that yoke, knit, 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 and you've got a fun custom color work sweater. But it was a beast of a pattern. It was a recipe pattern, and it was about 28 pages to include all of that. And I thought, this is too hard. Like, I want this to be in a format where people just pick their things. They pick, do they want to go bottom up or top down? They pick what yarn weight, they pick their size, and then they get a pattern that's like 1 page long.
Yeah.
Because it's just what they need to see. They don't need all the rest. They just need to know what they need to know. So Strange Brew will one day be in the app, but because it's such a beast with it includes a whole library of stitch patterns that you can select from to put into your yoke. And because it includes so many extra bits and bobs, it doesn't fit into our app format just yet. And we have to do a bit more development before we can bring it into the app. So we're going there, but it's like, there's still a few things that need to be done before we can get there.
Yeah, it's a bit more complicated.
Yes. It's a fun pattern though.
Yeah, it sounds it. I've also had people asking, is it possible to choose a combination of sizes? Say if you're wider at the top, thinner in the waist, or vice versa. Can people do that?
I think that's probably longer out as a feature as well, because it's a little bit more niche than just doing the single size. But it is something that many and many people have asked for, and it's because it's a feature that people love about hand knitting, right? They can get the garments customized just the way they like them. Yeah. It'll definitely be something that's eventually woven in to the app, where you can make adjustments here and there, add in adjustment points, and then or select from the hip measurement from this size of the pattern and the bust measurement from this size of the pattern, and then have a shaping calculated in between the 2 points. So we do see the app going there, but you can't just yet. Some of the magic that you want is not there yet.
We're all so excited about it, Emily. We're like, I can do this and this and this.
Oh yeah, it can already do so much, but yeah, just start with the easy ones and we'll get to those more complicated ones later.
But I do, like, one of the things we've noticed is people, probably everybody on this call who's listening, is already really engaged with knitting. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. And you know your business. Like, you maybe been knitting longer than I have. You could teach me a thing or two. And so people are like, I don't need an app for my knitting patterns. I know how to knit from a pattern. I'm an expert. And so there's a lot of hesitation to download it and try it out, because why get one more thing? Like, it's like the whole world tells you your dog needs an app just to like open its feeding bowl. And there's an app for absolutely everything. And I roll my eyes every time the grocery store tells me I can't buy oranges without downloading the app, you know? So I totally understand that a lot of people who we've come across they don't want to download another thing. They don't want to touch their screen again.
Sure.
They don't think that this is something that's useful to them. But if you try it, you can see what we're aiming at. And there are 10 free patterns on there, and they're good ones. Like, people absolutely love the flax sweater pattern. It's been knit a bajillion times. It works really well. It's in 3 yarn weights now, worsted, DK, and sock. And that's a top-down raglan. There's a free sock pattern. There's the Antler Toque pattern, which has got great cables. Do you want to hold it up? It's been knit up in Moon Age Daydream, the colorway that I designed. And so it's amazing hat. You really will knit it, and then you want to knit it for everybody else.
You show this.
You can see the fun little star shape on the top.
It's got a pretty crown.
So cute.
Yeah, everyone has made loads of those as well. We know that Donna, who works here, has made like 5, I think.
Yeah.
I've made a few over the years. So that's a free pattern. So there's 10 free patterns on the app. And the aim is to create this as a tool where you can drag and drop all your patterns. So it's possible that when the pattern you're knitting now can be used in the app, that might convince you to try it. But the more people who try it now and give us feedback, the better, because we need to know what's important to you. I think that what was I going to say? I think that the key is more patterns. So we're working hard to put more patterns into the app, but that isn't even as important as to work hard to make it so you can bring any pattern in and use the features.
Yeah, I really like it. I haven't started knitting, but I had gone in and like started making projects and things. But yeah, I need to link it to my Ravelry so it can tell me how many more things I can. I've already made several of the things that are in there, like love note and so on. So yeah,
I definitely.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
I love it. Like, because you say it's great for your stash. So like, I'm already thinking, oh right, well I'm going to go home and look at my stash and then look at what I could make with it. It's so clever.
Yeah. But yeah, we've also got some of the things we've knitted up, like the simple sweater and the antler. Those ones we've got kits for. So as well, if you can go into the app and get the pattern and have a look at what you want to do and work out how much you need if you didn't already know from the sizing, but our kits have got it as well. So yeah, if you want to make it in Emily's special color.
I got right into the app and I didn't talk about working on the limited edition colorway, but it was so much fun. And when Sonia emailed about it, I just thought, of course, how could I say no to this opportunity? Because it's got me the opportunity to learn a completely new skill. Like, I'd never used hand cards. I'd never blended. I didn't know about that. Yeah. And to work with a fiber that I really love. Like, you can see, I already had bought a whole spinning fiber line of Yarnadelic long before this collaboration came up, and worked with it and really adored it. And to work with color, which is one of my passions.
Yeah.
There was a couple questions I noticed about languages in the app.
Oh yeah.
And it's an interesting question because we would really love to offer our patterns in other languages. but because we do all our own pattern support and we have a real high standard for being able to support our patterns, we haven't done translations yet. And I think that this could change in future, given how good Google Translate is. We could probably do pattern support with a Google Translate assistance. But I do see the app is essentially like a website. Yeah. And if we hook Google Translate on as a layer on top of the app, I could see our patterns and other people's patterns as well being translated within the app. So that's another few steps out, but it's something that making the text accessible to the web could allow. So I'm really excited about it because I'm also a language nerd. I speak Spanish. I've learned French recently. I started with German, and I'm dabbling in Italian because I've got an Italian friend. So I'm really into the idea of being able to translate our patterns.
Yeah, that's cool. It is useful. I've had to do that where you occasionally go, oh, this is only available in another language and I really want to knit this thing. So you sit there going, I wonder what that word means. Oh, okay. Yes, you usually just about muddle through. But yeah, Google Translate does help, even if it doesn't always know the correct word.
Amazing. I'm trying to keep track of all the questions. There's quite a few sort of, I don't want them to get lost. One person's asked, in what way is this different or better to their present knitting app, which is Knit Companion?
Okay, so sorry, I started tapping a response. Knit Companion takes your PDF and it allows you to draw on top of it and keep track using highlights on top of the source PDF. It doesn't take any data out of the source PDF, not yet anyways. So our strategy was kind of something a little bit different, where we wanted in the app the pattern to read just like a pattern, but that it would have all of that data accessible so that we could have the tutorials available at a tap. We could have you pick your own size instead of seeing your PDF pattern and just highlighting your size. So there's definitely amazing things that Knit Companion does, but our strategy is more about tearing the pattern apart and recreating it in a format that's easier to use. Whereas Knit Companion's about taking the PDF pattern and kind of highlighting it or cropping it so that the user can set up their pattern and work through it. So there's probably a lot of things that Knit Companion currently does better than the Tin Can Knits app does, but the strategies are just a bit different under the covers. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, cool.
And somebody else was saying you're spending a lot of time and effort creating this app and adding all this functionality, so surely it can't always be free.
No, it won't be. First of all, you can buy patterns in the app so that you can support us through pattern purchase. But when we make the sort of drag other people's patterns in and the pattern transform service live, once we get there, that won't be a free service. It'll be like a Knit Companion, we expect, where you buy a tool from us and you can use it to transform your patterns and see just your size and tap through and keep it all on your device. So it'll be a tool for knitters. Right now, that extra layer of the tool is available for free for any Tin Can Knits patterns that you're knitting. And I expect it will be in the future as well. If you're importing a Tin Can Knits pattern, it'll be free. But if you're importing any other pattern, there'll be a cost to it. So yeah, it won't always be free, everything free all the time. And that's kind of where we see the business going.
We had a couple of other people saying that they use it for like the patterns, like doing lots and lots of pattern knitting. So there was somebody in there that was doing it in essentially a knitting for charity projects. Yeah, which is very cool.
Yeah, there's a comment that by someone who uses a Knit Companion for the colorwork part, of a tin can knits pattern, because Knit Companion right now does colorwork charts really well. You can just pick your chart, and it like goes beep beep boop, and then you can tap through the chart. So we're aiming to, like, we've already reworked our charts within the Tin Can Knits app. So if you try Dog Star, for example, which is a colorwork yoke sweater, you'll now see that you can tap through the chart the same way that you can in Knit Companion. So we're aiming to bring that functionality on.
Someone else asked what the in-app purchases are, and that's just more patterns, isn't it? It's other than the
right now you can buy Tin Can Knits patterns in the app. So if you go on the app and you want to buy the simple sweater pattern, you can buy it on the app just by clicking buy now, and you get the use of the pattern in the app, but you also get an email with a PDF. So you get both formats when you buy in the app. Just so you know, it's not just in the app that you can use that pattern. You can grab the PDF, you can pop it in your Ravelry library.
So compatible with different devices, PCs and Macs. Will everyone be able to see it the same and use it the same?
The app? Right now, it works on Apple phones and iPads and some Macs, like Mac laptops. And it also works on Android phones. Anybody who has access to the Google Play Store can get it for free. And it works on your Android tablets as well. So if you have access to the Google Play Store, you can get it for free there. So those are the places that it's working. In the future, it's possible we might make it available via the web so that you can go to the Tin Can Knits app, and it's not an app, but it's a website. But we're not sure what's best. And it's me and my husband, John, and Alexa who are building the app. So it's a bit of a slow grow because we don't have a big development team. We're making it. Which is great because you can email me and say, this doesn't work for me. And I'll say, oh, it's on the list to be fixed, or thanks for letting us know. We're going to fix that. So you're communicating directly to us. We're making the thing for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone was asking about, do you want feedback? So is there a feedback option through the app, or is it just to email you if they've got?
The best way to give feedback is when you're in the app, tap the menu button in the top right and say, get account help. There's a button there. And then you can send me a message directly from there. And the reason I say to do it in the app isn't to make it complicated for you, but I'll see your app account. So if there's any problem with your account, I can fix it immediately for you.
Yeah.
So we definitely want all of the feedback. And actually, you can give it to me through the app, like I just described, or just email me, go to just Google Tin Can Knits. You'll find our email on our website. Send us an email. It doesn't matter how it comes. We want the feedback.
Sure.
There was a question like really far at the beginning, and I've remembered it.
Yeah.
I hope this person is still listening. Someone who wondered, where did the name Tin Can Knits come from?
That's a classic. The first logo that I designed for our business was this image of two little girls with tin cans and string talking like down the line, because I always moved farther and farther away from Alexa. When I met Alexa, we were both living in Vancouver. And then before we'd even started our business together, I'd moved to Vancouver Island. So like a ferry ride away.
Yep.
And then before we launched our first book, I'd moved to Scotland. So a whole ocean away. So it kind of seemed apt that we were always talking over the phone, like two little girls with tin cans and string. So that was where the name came from. And it's stuck. It's hard to name things. It's one of the hardest things about being in a creative business.
Yeah.
And someone was saying, have you thought of crowdfunding to get some more developers?
We actually did do a crowdfunder type fundraiser last autumn, and lots of people came out and bought app credits and other classes and stuff. And that did allow us to raise the funds to hire John, my husband, for a year and a half. So we do have funds for him to work. And we may do another crowdfunder, but the truth is we just want to get the product out to you. We just want to launch the app that allows you to use all of your patterns in the app, in the same app format. So we're just aiming to like create the product and make it available for sale. Alexa and I are always pretty hesitant to ask people for money before the product is available. We're a little bit old school, I think. But we'll do what we have to do because we're very dedicated to making this something that's available for knitters.
Yeah, a couple of people have said that they very much like to help because they want all of these features. I'm sure it'd be popular.
We'll keep it in mind, and it's not the first generous offer that many people have had where they're like, "But we want to help you. We want to see you succeed. How can we support this?" So, Alexa and I will keep it in mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of love going on the chat.
Thank you.
Loving the app and wanting more and wanting to help you.
Lots of people who said
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming and talking about it. It's like we're very
thanks for having me design the shade as well. It was a joy. It's like the very most perfect, the kind of project that I love so much.
And if anybody missed it, there's a YouTube up on our channel, which is Sonia and Emily working on designing it. So if you want to go and see how it was done, you can go and look at that one.
Yeah.
It is great.
Definitely buy the yarn or the tops if you're a spinner. I made a gorgeous love note for my daughter Neve with the sport weight.
Yeah. Oh wow.
We've got those pictures up on the website.
And I knit it from the app and it was great.
And yes, this is also a simple sweater that's in your color that we had knitted up as a sample.
Do you see how different it is if you stripe the yoke versus if you just do a single color? It's a very versatile pattern, and it's like I kept on knitting them because they're the comfiest, most sweatshirty sort of sweater.
Yeah.
Really easy to wear.
Yes, it's very nice. I've kept it on all day.
Yeah, it's a bit chilly today. We appreciate the knitwear.
It's not chilly here. It's like going to be 30, 32 degrees.
Oh, wow.
Today in the middle of the day. Like a low of 17.
I think that's the high for us today. Thank you so much for joining us from your holiday.
Yeah.
We'll let you get back to your lovely weather and beautiful scenery.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for coming, and thanks for having me, Helen and Laura, and Sophie behind the scenes.
For joining us. And come back again tomorrow. We have a few more things, so you can go and check on the Eventbrite and see a few more. Yeah. We've got beading tomorrow and crochet hacks, and then show and tell. So if you've got any, I see lots of people are knitting away in the background. If you've got anything you're working on or that you've made and you want to show off, please come along and show them to us.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much, everybody. Hope you've had a lovely day. I'm sure a lot of you have joined us for all the sessions today. So lovely to have you. And lots of nice comments in the chat. Thanks very much.
Right.
Yeah, thank you so much for your support, everybody.
Amazing.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Ciao.
Bye.